Yeah, good days, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests and distinguished experts. It is now 1 minute past 2, and therefore it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the PtX Lab Talk Plus. This is a specialized webinar series of 3 webinars jointly organized by our organization, the PtX Lab Lausitz, Agora Energiewende, as well as the International PtX Hub. All 3 discussions will focus on possible pathways for PtX finance from various angles. Before we dive right into the topic, a few technical aspects. This talk will be recorded and released at a later point on our website alongside the presentations of our speakers. You will receive a mail after the lab talk with a link towards said website. Please disable your microphones during the lab talk in order to avoid disturbances. In the spirit of constructive dialogue, we encourage our audience to actively participate through posing their insights and asking questions through the provided question and answer tool. We will collect these and pose them afterwards to our experts in the discussion round. A few words to our rule before we act. Oh, no, sorry. Yes, as I mentioned, this is the first in a series of 3 webinars. First is today, the next one will be in the next week, and the one afterwards a week later, going from current state over to future possible pathways for PtX finance. A few words to our role. The PtX Lab Lausitz supports industry and society on their way to greenhouse gas neutrality. The lab acts as a knowledge platform as well as a point of contact for industry, society, and science, and as well as building an acting demonstration platform for Power-to-X technology. We focus on green hydrogen-based sustainable air fuel, as well as the chemical industry and shipping along the whole value chain. A few words regarding the topic of today. PtX is one of the most critical advancements for decarbonization efforts. It has the potential to replace raw materials, most prominently fossil fuels, and thereby alleviating consequences by the usage and extraction of said raw materials. Many sectors, such as aviation, shipping, chemicals, are at pivotal crossroads. However, the long innovation cycles, as well as the long building times of plants, mean the demand will outmatch supply severely at current rates. Therefore, financial investment decisions, or FIDs, are crucial, and that in the immediate term. PtX products, such as sustainable aviation fuels or green ammonia, have the potential to reduce emissions significantly over their life cycle. However, the adoption of said PtX products pose many challenges. The very high initial production cost, supply chain issues, as well as the creation of bankability and market scalability are significant hurdles which lead to low investment willingness. Therefore, finance is a crucial point for the market ramp-up. In this light, it is now my honor to welcome the 3 speakers to the Lab Talk, who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience from industry as well as science. I will introduce each of them individually before their respective talks. We'll start with Mr. Daniel Scher from the PtX Lab Lausitz, who is giving an overview of general questions of finance. Then Mr. Prasad Joshi from AM Green as well as Green Co Group from India will give an overview of his experiences in the green ammonia production and EU import challenges. And lastly, Mr. Tore Lohmann from ThyssenKrupp Uhde will give an overview of his experiences. So now, once again, I welcome you all, and I am confident that today's discussion will be both enlightening and inspiring. So without further ado, let us begin with our first speaker, Mr. Daniel Scher. He has been at the PtX Lab since December last year, where he works on finance in the context of PTL and its market ramp-up, as well as the accompanying regulatory, political, and economic topics. Prior to that, he worked at the NOV, the National Organization for Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology. He has an MBA in Energy and Resource Management, as well as a Bachelor of Engineering in Energy and Environmental Management. And with that, I would like to hand over to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. Sharing my screen. Let's see if it works. You see the full presentation?
Yep, we do.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Daniel Stair, as mentioned, and I'm excited to discuss the topic that's becoming increasingly critical in our pursuit of a sustainable future, overcoming the barriers to a market ramp up of power to X technologies. Um, as a representative example for green power to X technologies, I'll dive into renewable fuels of non-biological origin, or RFNBOs. Um, haven't yet experienced significant market growth in Europe and beyond. We'll discuss the challenges and barriers hindering their widespread adoption and analyze why existing financial instruments and mechanisms are currently inefficient, and take a look at necessary steps and tools to accelerate their market expansion over the next year and decades. Hopefully, or not hopefully, through this presentation, I probably will also use electro-sustainable aviation fuels, or ESAF, as a key example to further illustrate some points. Let's start by introducing RFNBOs. Renewable fuels of non-biological origin are synthetic fuels produced using renewable energy sources other than biomass. They encompass hydrogen, synthetic methane, and liquid fuels like e-kerosene, eSAF. These fuels are generated by using renewable electricity to electrolyze water, producing hydrogen, which then can be combined with captured renewable or sustainable carbon dioxide to create hydrocarbons. Getting this out of the way, I think we can all agree RFNBOs will be essential for Europe's green and sustainable energy transition for several reasons. They offer a viable solution for reducing emissions in various sectors where electrification is quite challenging as of now, such as heavy industry, shipping, and aviation. They also enable energy storage and grid balancing by storing surplus renewable energy. Moreover, though, they enhance our energy security. We had experienced that in the last years by reducing the dependence on fossil fuels. So we think RFNBOs will play a crucial role in defossilizing sectors that are difficult to electrify today. Industries like steel, cement, and chemicals. High temperature processes and specific feedstocks are required here, needs that RFNBOs can fulfill. In the transport sector, heavy duty vehicles, maritime shipping, and aviation all benefit in general from the high energy density of these fuels. And by integrating RFNBOs in the energy mix, Europe and the world moves closer to its climate goals, including achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. As an example, aviation is a significant contributor to global greenhouse gas emissions, accounting for approximately 2 to 3% of global CO2 emissions. While this may seem not much or modest, it's important to note that aviation emissions have been growing rapidly and are projected to triple by 2050 if unchecked or not countered. And ESAF presents a practical solution in this dilemma, you could say, because they are drop-in fuels, meaning they can be used in existing aircraft engines and fuel distribution infrastructure with minor modifications or none. Moreover, when produced during renewable energy and carbon capture technologies, SAF can significantly reduce lifestyle greenhouse gas emissions by up to 85% more or less compared to conventional jet fuel. So I would say that's overall a pretty good thing. Moving over, so what's the current status and potential right now? Despite the significant potential, RFNBOs currently have limited market penetration in Europe and across the world, while there are several pilot projects or many more emerging and initiatives that are underway. The commercial applications remain minimal or scarce. There are more and more projects in the past years and in the future, thankfully, but we don't see a serious market ramp up so far. Nevertheless, the market potential, however, is substantial. Since Europe pushes forward defossilizing, the demand for renewable fuels will rise in various sectors and is expected to rise severely according different or many projections and studies. And to unlock this potential, it requires us to address and overcome significant barriers along the way. I would like to shift the focus here to these specific challenges, mainly technologically, regulatory, and financial barriers, which are impeding the market ramp up of our MBOs as of today. Firstly, as Balthasar already mentioned, one of the primary obstacles of the market ramp up are the high production costs. Producing RFMBOs is currently more expensive than producing fossil fuels, and this cost disparity is largely due to the price of renewable electricity and the capital-intensive infrastructure, which is required and needed, and those are the big chunks, basically. Secondly, technological challenges also play a significant role. While the foundational technologies like electrolyzers already exist, scaling them up together in the value chain efficiently is still quite difficult. Additionally, the infrastructure for production, storage, and distribution of RFMBOs is generally underdeveloped, adding another layer of complexity to it. The good thing here is in Europe, we will get this massive hydrogen infrastructure, which is called a hydrogen backbone, which is much needed to facilitate further advancements. And then we have regulatory uncertainties to complete the picture of challenges for RFMBOs. They are currently facing, for example, standards and requirements for incentives vary not only across EU member states, but across the world, basically, which makes it harder to build, finance, and operate, say, the same project in different locations and environments. And then let us dive a little bit deeper in those technological challenges. As mentioned, first, we need to consider electrolyzer technology, which is central to producing green hydrogen. Current electrolyzers are costly and have limited efficiency. Not too bad, and they're getting better. But scaling up the production capacity will be essential to reduce costs and unlock economies of scale. I think we all agree on that. Carbon dioxide capture and utilization is another critical area. Capturing CO2 efficiently and economically at a scale is challenging as of today. Current methods can be quite energy intensive and very expensive. So the CO2 used for producing RFMBOs must come from sustainable sources to ensure overall emission reductions, which is in Europe required under the RED III regulation. Nevertheless, though, advancements in CO2 capture technologies such as direct air capture are promising right now, but still require quite a lot of development to become cost competitive and really relevant in the future. Integrating RFMBOs into the existing energy system poses additional challenges. For instance, we have the existing natural gas grid, which may not be compatible with high concentrations of hydrogen without some modifications. Similarly, we have storage, transport of hydrogen and synfuels. They all require specialized infrastructure to handle their unique property safely and efficiently. And all these challenges need to be addressed through focused research, development efforts, of course, pilot projects, and cross-border industry collaboration to bring RFMBO technologies to a commercial readiness level. The next big barrier these technologies face are, of course, regulatory and policy barriers, which is also significantly impact the market ramp up. As already mentioned, a key issue is the lack of standardized definitions and classifications for RFMBOs across not only the European Union, but beyond. Especially the inconsistency can lead to confusion over incentives and compliance with regulations, making the whole endeavor quite difficult to produce and for investors to plan their activities, especially in the long term. Then we have certification and guarantees of origin. They are essential for verifying essentially that RFMBOs are indeed produced from renewable sources. However, the current processes for certifications can be quite complicated and fragmented and vary between countries. And the EU, we have right now voluntary schemes for that. Policy uncertainty is another major barrier. The absence of long-term and stable policies and targets create a risky environment for investments. Investors, I would say in general, need confidence that the policies won't change abruptly and that there will be that there will be a constant and sustained market in the future. For example, in Europe, we have the Refuel EU Aviation, which creates demand via quotas, but it also has a review clause through which the entire mechanism could be changed potentially, and therefore doesn't create the much needed long-term security, one could say. Moreover, existing policies may unintentionally actually favor other renewable energy solutions. For instance, subsidies and incentives might be more readily available for biofuels or direct electrification projects, in consequence, sidelining RFNBOs. And last but not least, of course, financial challenges for projects remain of the most significant hurdles to scaling up. The initial capital required for setting up production facilities is substantial. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions for large-scale projects. Technologies like electrolyzers and carbon capture equipment are expensive, and the costs decrease only production by the significant scale up, basically. We all know that. Further, the operational costs are also still quite high, particularly due to the price of renewable electricity, which is a major input for producing RFNBOs. And while renewable energy costs have been decreasing in the past, and they probably will in the future, they still represent a significant and major portion of the production costs. In conclusion, basically, technological uncertainties and all the challenges I mentioned, coupled with the regulatory and policy uncertainties, which we have discussed, many investors make investors cautious and are reasons for, in general, unfavorable conditions for raising capital in basically any endeavor. So without clear long-term signals that investments in technologies like that will be profitable and protected, securing private capital becomes very challenging. And the existing financial instruments we have right now haven't really adequately addressed these financial barriers in many situations, and many funding programs are focused towards research development rather than supporting a commercial scale-up of these technologies. Grants and subsidies are often quite short-term and insufficient in size to make a meaningful impact in these kind of.
Cannot hear you.
Do you hear me now again?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
back,
For some reason, my headphones turned off. Don't know why. Sorry. So yeah, let's get back. So why do current financial mechanisms fall generally short right now in supporting the market ramp up? One reason is that programs like Horizon Europe, while valuable for like advancing research and innovation projects, they don't provide usually the scale of funding which is needed for commercial deployment. They often target early stage technologies rather than supporting the transition from there to market ready solutions. Then you have carbon pricing mechanisms on the other hand, such as the EU emission trading system, which is intended to make fossil fuels less competitive by putting a price tag on carbon emissions. However, the current carbon prices are not high enough to bridge the cost gap between RFMBOs and fossil fuels, which means that economically they are still little incentives for industries to switch from fossil fuels to greener alternatives. And additionally, many subsidies are short-term and lack the longevity required for investors to feel secure in the commitments to long-term projects. And we're talking about 20, 30, 40 years of investments. So in summary, existing financial instruments basically lack the scale, accessibility, and the long-term support which is necessary to drive significant investments. And because of that, this results in a significant funding gap we have right now. To meet our goals, and a substantial amount of investments is needed, potentially hundreds of billions of dollars by 2050. And current funding mechanisms, both public and private, cover only a small fraction of that. So private investors are in general essential to bridge this gap because public funding can't do that on its own. But they are hesitant due to the perceived risk and insufficient financial incentives there are. So without effective mechanisms to de-risk investments and provide a stable return, attracting capital is, quite challenging. So let's talk solutions. We need tailored financial instruments designed for specifically RFMBO projects to overcome these financial barriers. I think that's quite obvious by now. Carbon contracts for difference are such instruments. They can provide price stability by guaranteeing that producers receive a fixed price for their products, covering the difference between the market price and the higher costs of RFMBOs. And this mechanism reduces revenue uncertainties and makes projects in general more attractive. Similar to this is, for example, the H2 Global double auction system, where there's an auction for the producing, selling side and an auction for the using, buying side, where the lowest price at the selling side and the highest on the buying side come together, and the difference between both is covered by the funding body. And then we need risk sharing mechanisms. They are also very important. We have public-private partnerships can be pretty useful for that by distributing financial risk associated with large-scale projects. For example, governments can provide loan guarantees or co-invest alongside private entities in these projects to reduce the risk profile of such investments, and encouraging private investment by that. A book and claim approach could also be help the market ramp up. Book and claim is based on the separation and independency of the physical energy carrier and its sustainability, which would reduce the overall cost of a market ramp up. And if you want to know more about that book and claim approach, then you should look up our publication regarding that. But getting back, I think implementing these financial instruments, or just a few of them in the right way, can provide a lot of necessary support to attract the necessary investments in the future and bridge this massive funding gap we have. But for that, we also need some policy recommendations. So what needs to happen on this side? Policies are crucial, of course, to complement financial instruments and address the barriers we discussed. First, developing clear and consistent definitions, standards for RFMBOs across the EU and possibly other countries are essential. This standardization would reduce confusion and streamline certification processes and facilitate cross-border trade, which is in general a good thing. Setting long-term binding targets for RFMBO adoption in key sectors can provide a strong market signal. And aligning subsidies and incentives to support RFMBOs on an equal footing with other renewable solutions is also quite important. Policies should be technology neutral, allowing the most suitable solutions to emerge based on their merits in specific application and their fit in the use case. I think with a brief look at the time, there are further needs, of course, technological advancements and innovation, collaboration needs and partnerships. But I would say conclude here. RFMBOs hold immense promise, I think, for defossilizing hard-to-abate sectors and achieving our climate objectives. However, they are facing still significant barriers, hindering their market penetration and ramp up. And we need to address these challenges with a multi-layered approach, you could say. So we need technological innovation, investing in R&D, scaling up technologies to improve efficiency and costs. We need supportive policies, establishing clear, consistent regulations, long-term targets, and we need effective financial instruments, implemented mechanisms that de-risk investments and to bridge the funding gap. And of course, we need collaborative efforts engaging all stakeholders along the value chain in coordinated actions. And I think and hope we have seen both the potential of RFNBOs and the hurdles they face right now. In the end, I think it's now up to us all to take decisive actions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive overview of challenges and possible solutions. I would now like to hand over to our second speaker, Mr. Prasad Yoshi from AIM Green and GreenCo Group. He leads both groups' vision in carbon-free energy and green molecules in India and overseas. And before that, he acted as general manager at SoftBank's energy division in India and abroad. There, he focused on strategy development for energy investment. And before that, he worked for 14 years at General Electric in various roles, spanning from research and development, commercial operations, to sales leader in GE Renewables. He is a mechanical engineer who graduated from Government College of Engineering in Pune, as well as the University of Cincinnati in mechanical engineering. And with that, over to you, Prasad.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. So let me start. Are you going to run the slides?
They should be coming up any second. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So thanks for the introduction, and let me just take you guys through what is the platform called as AIM Green, and I'll give you some introduction about textile. AIM Green essentially consists of four different pillars. One is focusing exclusively on ammonia. One is on a green molecule such as caustic soda, methanol. Then there is something on a SAF, which we call AIM Green SAF. And then there is one division which completely focuses on technology and solutions. So this company is essentially a sister company, or you can call offshoot of GreenCo Group, which was one of the biggest renewable platform in India, which focuses on solar, wind, and hydro-based solutions. And the combination of these are actually essential for achieving the so-called lowest cost of power. At GreenCo, we are owning roughly 7.5 gigawatt of operating assets in a combination of roughly equal proportion from the megawatt side. And that gives us significant advantage of gaining experience on how these hydro turbines work. Next slide, please. Yeah. So so far we've been discussing on what are different challenges which will be faced by various producers or even the various developers across the globe in terms of the capital availability. So what we have decided, and every slide you'll actually see that how we have split the problem into the various small issues, and that's how we started solving them. One of the main issue on all these green fuels or green chemicals is substantial capital availability. Just to give an example, let's take a case of 1 million ton of green ammonia. If you want to produce 1 million ton of green ammonia, you roughly need $7 to $8 billion of capex in various forms. A part of majority of chunk will go in renewable, part of that will go in some form of storage, whether it's hydrogen or electricity. There is a lot of investment needed in the development of various infrastructure at a port. And then beyond that, the most important is going to be the ammonia plant. So if you look at all these capex, so what we started doing is how we can disintegrate the major problem and into the smaller problems so that we can find a solution which is very specific to that. So what we first did was we should look at ammonia loop as a separate entity, renewable as a separate, and then we'll try to find out how we can utilize this combination of energy storage and ammonia into different buckets. The first one was easy to handle. More in India, if you look at, there is roughly 300 total. Our grid capacity is 400 gigawatt. Out of that, we are touching almost 150 gigawatt of operating assets on solar and wind. Now, there is enough capital available if anybody want to get it financed from the solar and wind side. So what we did was we focus on getting the renewable power which is readily available in the market. A lot of developers just want to go and install the renewable projects. So we started tying up a PPA with them. Then there was a main issue which was cropping up how you will store this intermittent power. Because if you want to run your ammonia 24 by 7, you need to have access to 24 by 7 hydrogen. So what we did was instead of storing the hydrogen, we thought of storing the energy, and that is where our core competency of Greenco Group came into picture, where we are building the India's largest cloud storage network of 100 gigawatt of storage. That 100 gigawatt hour storage will essentially help in giving the firmness to this intermittent renewable power. So what we're essentially doing is we are buying the cheap solar and wind power available from the various renewable developers, converting that, utilizing our storage into the firm and dispatchable power. And that is when that energy will go to electrolyzer, run it almost like 85 to 90% of the time, and that will give the enough hydrogen which is required to run the ammonia plant. So if you look at the partnership, what we had done, the first partnership, which what we did was getting the power commitment from the biggest developers in India, such as Petronas, NTPC, ONGC. These are biggest utilities, and they have solid balance sheets. So they have, most important is the renewable target to achieve. So what we did is we said, okay, guys go ahead and develop the renewable for us. We'll convert that into round the clock. And then the biggest capital commitment, which came from the ADIA, GIC, and Petronas for us, that has actually fueled a platform for our AIM Green Ammonia. So our AIM Green Ammonia platform is fully funded for 5 million ton of ammonia, and that is green ammonia, by the way. So that essentially that takes care of the capital requirements on the ammonia side. Renewable power taken care by all those biggest utilities, and then comes to the most important part of what is who's going to offtake this. To do offtake to Europe, one of the key challenge what we face was what is RFNBO. I mean, most of the time, rather we started this entire dialogue almost 2.5 years back. That is when even there was no definition of RFNBO. And another issue is who is going to even certify whether this is RFNBO compliant or not compliant. That is when we realized that we need to start partnering with the various European agencies. And then one of the partners, what we found is Inicio, who actually did it. I mean, jointly we worked almost 6 to 8 months to even come out with architecture, what is going to be qualified as an RFNBO compliance. So based on the present rules and regulation of 1 hour matching, renewable storage, all that combination together, I think our first plant was first of only plant which is RFNB compliant, which is based in India. Then the most important ingredient for all this ammonia green fuel is electrolyzer. That is how we solve with having partnering with John Cockrell, who is a Belgium-based company. They are alkaline electrolyzer producer, and they are helping us in getting the lowest possible cost of electrolyzer. Next one, please. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I think we can skip this. This. Yeah. Now, if you look at globally available round-the-clock power, if and what is around-the-clock power available in India, we have access to the cheapest possible round-the-clock power. Our average cost of power is roughly in a 4.5 cent, and 4.5 cent is essentially gives 85 to 90% renewable power. That is plain vanilla solar and wind combined with something what we call as a pump storage. This pump storage, we are actually running like a water battery running on a grid. Our national grid is capable of handling almost more than 200 gigawatt of power flow in and out. So all these new big projects, anything above 200 megawatt is getting connected to national grid. So all my 1 million ton ammonia plant needs roughly 4.5 gigawatt of renewable. So that entire 4.5 gigawatt renewable is connected to national grid, from where the excess power is stored into my pump storage, which is also on national grid. And then we are dispatching that entire power to ammonia plant, which we are again connecting to national grid. And this whole architecture, government of India has not given any incentives for these majority of ammonia complexes. But what they've done is the biggest and the best possible thing what they can do is giving access to this whole renewable flow in and out free of cost. So for next 25 years, any renewable developer who's actually going to supply power to more green ammonia or green hydrogen or green methanol complex, that entire transmission cost is completely waived off. So they, first of all, they will approve these transmission within on a fast track basis, and most important is there are no charges at all. Essentially, they are putting up these charges on the coal and natural gas suppliers. So essentially, they are loading up the carbon price there. So this has helped us in achieving 4.5 cent of round the clock power. Next one, please. Yeah, this talks about the biggest partnership what we have done. So what we are doing with John Cockrell is we are actually building India's biggest, the first gigafactory or the 2 gigawatt factory, which will produce alkaline electrolyzers. And this whole partnership is going to enable us to get the lowest cost of electrolyzer available to us. And at the same time, um, most of the people globally are going to face shortage of all these electrolyzers. So what we have done is we have secured that supply through our partnership. Presently, we are looking at 2 gigawatt, and there is a possible ramp up to 3 gigawatt of this electrolyzer facility in different locations. So that is the only way we can secure our supply of electrolyzer for entire 5 million ton of plants what we have. Next one. Maybe we can skip these next couple of slides. Yeah, this one. So this actually helps us, will give you some idea how we are able to achieve the financing. See, most important point is to get a offtake agreement. So we have got offtake agreement with likes of Uniper, Keppel, RW, and Yara. So these are the biggest names. And by the way, all these names are in public, so there's nothing which is confidential which I'm sharing. But all these um, guys have signed up long-term offtake agreements for green ammonia coming out of our RFNB compliant complex. The plant which I'm showing you right now is the first ammonia plant which is RFNB compliant, certified by pre-certified by Hinicio. So once the plant is ready, connected to renewable supply, that will get certified as in line with RFNB compliance. So what we have achieved here is this plant was old urea complex. So what we have done is we have taken over that plant, which was defunct, and we are converting that plant into green ammonia complex. That helps us in achieving the faster timelines of converting these ammonia loops. And then entire renewable in India, we can easily achieve renewable timelines for 4.5 gigawatt in a span of 24 to 36 months. So with that, we are signing up for all the offtakes starting from 27 from this first green ammonia plant, which is shown there. Now, when we went for financing, there were obvious challenges in terms of the not having the longer offtake like 25 years, but that is where we have to make convincing pitches to all the lenders. And one of their concern was to have obviously to have higher equity. So that is when we are almost doing 40/60 equity debt ratio. We are pumping more equity upfront till we get all these technical solutions found in terms of RFNV compliance, in terms of PPAs, in terms of offtake agreements. And once that is done, that is when most of the lenders will come in. So that is, I mean, that is the only way we could able to do financing of these first ammonia plant. And if you look at this plant, it is having the proximity to the port, and that was one of the USP that we are not going to transport this ammonia for kilometers and kilometers. There is already a line which is connected between my plant to the berth, and we are going to use that line continuously for shipping this volume out. If you look at 1 million tons, so we are looking at almost any ship which is coming every 15 days. So we need to have dedicated berths. So already have tie-up with the port to have dedicated liquid berth for this green ammonia complex, and then all these agreements have been already signed, so that that will enable us in terms of dispatching this green ammonia to Europe in the fastest possible time. Next one. Maybe we can skip that. Yeah, so this actually indicates the plan of how are we going to have 5 million tons of ammonia. As I mentioned, this 5 million ton ammonia is already capex funded from the equity point of view from all our existing investors. We are what out of that we are doing 2 million ton in Kakinada. That is the same place where we have acquired the old urea complex. The second location what we are looking at is in Tuticorin, which is down south in Tamil Nadu, which will enable us to go either west or east in a more seamless fashion. Then we are looking at one location on a completely on a west coast side, which is in the Gujarat area, that will allow us to access Europe as well as some part of Middle East faster. And then we are looking at one kind of a JV with ONGC in a east in a western part of India, which is called as Mangalore. So that JV will happen coinciding with ONGC's existing plant. So this is how we are looking at 5 million ton of green ammonia complexes that are getting set up at different locations in India. We are hoping all these plants will be up and running by 2030. All of them will be running by 2030. The first ammonia shipment will happen from Kakinada by 27. And as of now, we have already achieved FID, and we are on track for getting all these loops converted from the gray ammonia to green ammonia by 2027. Next one. Yeah, I mean, this is where I wanted to have your audience that there are different geographies who can solve the problem, which is essentially to meeting all the RFNBO stricter guidelines. And you have to, I mean, Europe needs to be more open in terms of what sort of different solutions which are available, because there have been different ways in which the traditionally ammonia has been produced. Traditionally, electricity has been transferred from one place to another place, but with the advantage of new digital grids, I think we can have the full traceability that will enable us to go all the way to the root of electricity from where it has come. And this has allowed us to tick all the boxes in all RED 2. Any amendment which has happened in RED 2 so far, our project is complying with that. And that has been given a that has been a far more boost for all our plans of 5 million ton. And we know that this architecture can actually get replicated easily across India, because we are having one national grid, and all these new assets will get connected to that. So that is going to help us. Uh, I mean, that is going to help us to ship all this ammonia to European clients. I mean, that is where I want to stop. Yeah, I mean, this you can skip the last slide. I mean, that's fine. We already spoken on that. if there are any questions, I'm happy to take, or we can take it in a later part.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, we will have a question and answer round after the last presentation. So thank you very much for that insightful presentation. Definitely a lot to consider on financial challenges, but also the opportunities in resource export. So lastly, but definitely not least, I would like to hand over to Mr. Lohmann from ThyssenKrupp Uhde. He is globally responsible for the business of operations unit in fertilizer and methanol at the plant engineering specialist ThyssenKrupp Uhde since 2021. Prior to that, he was responsible for the division in Egypt, leading over 200 employees, and was also a board member for the German Arab Chamber of Commerce for many years there. He started his career at ThyssenKrupp Uhde in 1999 in the oil and gas division, and became an engineering manager in Mumbai for a large-scale petrochemical complex, and subsequently then the commissioning manager for the complex in Port Said in Egypt. From 2011 to 2014, he worked as head of the product development department in the gas technologies division. And with that, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Balthasar, for the introduction. Let me start the presentation. So, I hope everybody can see the presentation.
Yes,
Very
online
good.
and full screen.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we have heard already a lot about ammonia and the role of ammonia in the hydrogen economy and also in the whole transition and also the link to PtX. I would like to outline now and bring you this Swiss knife of the green transition a little bit closer. So who is ThyssenKrupp? I think many of you know the company. We are an international group of companies comprising largely independent industrial and technology business in Germany and also internationally. We are mostly known as a steel company, but steel is only one of the products we are doing. So we have many very different businesses under the roof of ThyssenKrupp, and here in the middle you see also steel coil, but we are doing components for wind turbines. We're doing entire ships and submarines. I have a large automotive area. We are producing also, like described, this alkaline water electrolyzers in one of our companies. And last but not least, we are also being an plant construction company and an engineering company there. So the structure is we have our automotive division facilitating the automotive industry, our material services with large warehouses for materials, the marine systems with submarine and above. Our marine systems, Steel Europe, and last but not least, the Decarbon Technology Division. Decarbon Technology Division is now the roof of all our technology companies dealing with the decarbonization of the industry. That is Rote Erde for the wind turbines, Polysius to defossilize cement plants, Nucera for the production of electrolysis and electrolyzers, and Uhde. The Uhde base is we are quite diverse in the different areas of the world with some centers in North America. We are very strong in the Middle East, India, and Far East Asia, as well as Australia. And we are a little bit unique animal in our business because we are combining under one roof first an engineering company. So we are executing globally projects on an EPC or EPX basis. And also we are providing the technologies necessary for that. Usually that is split into two companies. and we combining that under one roof, and that brings, especially in the financing, what Daniel referred at the beginning, some benefits, because we are providing then the wraparound guarantees for the entire value chain, as well as also then the technology guarantees for that. That brought us in many areas as a market leaders. We have built in our 100 years history around 3,000 chemical plants and also 120 or more than 120 ammonia plants. We have not just ammonia, that's on left side. Our technology, we are coming traditionally from the fertilizer industry, but we have also a lot of other technologies in our portfolio. Methanol to SAF, we have heard about that already, but also some of the circular systems, circular economy technologies, like carbon capture, and also downstream technologies for the carbon capture technologies. So what is now ammonia, and where we can find it today? So ammonia will be produced out of the nitrogen coming from the air and hydrogen. I'll come to that later. There we have different streams where you can produce that. And we are producing already globally 180 million tons per year. And the big portion of that, more than 85%, of the ammonia will be processed in the fertilizer industry, mainly in urea, but also in ammonium nitrates and other fertilizer application. And that is one major pillar of the chemical industry, and the farming industry or agriculture industry globally are our main clients then, and the producers in between. And there are also some other chemical applications and also cooling applications. Every cooling system, for example, in the industrial scale is using ammonia as an agent inside there. But we are standing now in front of a new era of the ammonia industry, because we see that ammonia is an ideal carrier for hydrogen. The transport of hydrogen is relatively technically difficult. Of course, the easiest thing would be to liquefy the hydrogen, but enormous temperatures of minus 253 degrees is necessary, and you consume to cool down the hydrogen from ambient temperature to this low temperature around 40% of the energy what you have inside the hydrogen. And also you have at that very low temperatures boil-off effects. That means the longer the way is you're transporting it, the more you are losing. And there, ammonia is a much easier to handle liquid, so you can store it or liquefy it at only minus 33 degrees. It's still very cold, but in comparison to hydrogen, much, much warmer and easier to handle. And you have a higher energy and density also. That means you need less volume, and that means you also save then transport energy, for example, if you transport the ammonia via ship. So therefore, from our point of view, and I think AM Gree is also agreeing to it, otherwise they would not bet on that horse, is ammonia one of the most promising hydrogen carriers, and therefore a very important enabler in the hydrogen industry, and one of the major PtX chemical agents in the future. That's now exactly how we are producing ammonia. The current situation is, and we call it always gray ammonia. Gray means with a lot of CO2 emissions loaded ammonia. We are producing it mainly out of natural gas, and CO2 will be released during the emission. We heard the global aviation brings 3% of the CO2 emissions. The ammonia production alone is around 3 to 5%, so even higher than the entire global aviation will be currently released from the ammonia production as gray ammonia. So therefore, a reduction of this ammonia, this CO2 is required. And there we have also another color coding, what I personally, and we also as a company, don't like, we want to talk there about low carbon ammonia. We have the blue ammonia. Blue ammonia is that you are separating the CO2 from the emissions, but you're still producing with a fossil feedstock the ammonia, and you're using then CCU or CCS technologies in order to utilize CO2. And the final, and at the end of the day, best solution is then the PtX solution, the so-called green ammonia. So that means we are producing from renewable energies via electrolyzers, then the hydrogen, and out of the hydrogen, then the ammonia. And that is, as we see currently, blue ammonia as an intermediate or immediate implementation. We have a delayed implementation in the green ammonia. So blue ammonia, we are building currently one of the biggest blue ammonia plants in Qatar for one of our clients, with the annual production of 1 million tons per year. Where we will see in the future this low carbon ammonia. So first of all, still in the fertilizer industry. So this 180 million tons needs to be defossilized in the future. And that is a task not just by the production, also during the use of the fertilizers is a lot to do. And this is one big area. But the second big area is that we're seeing the ammonia as an future energy carrier, and in the green, see it in the green energy. So first of all, as a hydrogen carrier, as described, there we have three major demand regions globally. That's the EU, Japan, and Korea. But we see it also directly as an fuel, as in the marine fuel. That's a huge area coming soon, and also directly for the power generation, especially in Japan and Korea. They're using ammonia as a co-firing in existing power plants and in existing gas turbines in order to directly defossilize in there the power production itself. If we talk about quantities here, and the numbers are showing million tons per year, that is what we see as demand in this 4 different areas. And there the largest demand is indeed the ammonia as an hydrogen carrier, followed then by the ammonia combustion. And for the next years, we see then clean fertilizer and maritime just as a minor role. And if we are translating that into the SCIA coding, then as FID decisions until 2030, the majority is in the so-called blue, so the still fossil-based, but with CCU, CCS equipped installations, and then the green is coming more and more over the years. If we have an outlook until 2050, then very clear the green ammonia is definitely dominating the market, and blue as well as gray ammonia will go down, and then another few decades later we will see definitely only the green ammonia. So when we will see the market, that's of course the biggest question. And we have to say that we are seeing a delay in the market itself. And one of the major drivers for the delay is, of course, the currently high costs in the market. We have here a graph of the levelized cost of hydrogen production. And the driver to bring down the cost is, of course, the electrolyzers production ramp up. So the more we are producing, and it is currently a very rare product, the prices will go down. And additionally, of course, the raise of the prices for the gray ammonia, what is then mainly the CO2 tax mechanisms around the world. And beside this pure financial mechanics, what we see currently, we have as one major drawback different global standards. What we see in the market, if we compare the standards between the EU, Japan, and South Korea, then major parameters of the carbon intensity are differently defined, and that brings, of course, a global manufacturer like AM Green, also others, in the problematic that they need to decide their technologies for a specific market. And that, of course, needs to market independent, and we need to have mechanism how to translate the different standards globally. We don't have the opinion that they will be really finally harmonized, but at least they need to be convertible from one to the other areas. And that is currently a very major drawback, what we see there. But does that mean that nothing is moving? And I would say no, there are also many positive signals what we're seeing. So we have in Germany now in this year a new hydrogen strategy with the import quota of hydrogen of more than 50%. So that is a very important signal to the ammonia producer globally that there is a market in Germany, and Germany is not producing and Europe is not producing their demands alone locally. Germany will invest in the so-called hydrogen backbone, and also 3 locations of ammonia crackers, import crackers, has been located. That was another very important signal to the market. And last but not least, also a price and financing signal. So Australia has joined the H2 Global initiative with 600 million Australian dollars there. And also one of our clients, the Fertiglobe company, they are the winning bidder of the first H2 Global auction. And there the first price point was now set of €1,000 per ton ammonia, what H2 Global is paying to Fertiglobe in order to ship it then to Europe. On the technology side, the green ammonia is not something what is new. So Uhde has built their first green ammonia plants in the 1950s in Egypt at the Aswan High Dam. You see here on the black and white pictures on the top one that are the electrolyzers at that point in time. And that plant was built in order to produce green fertilizer, in this case here ammonium nitrate. And this plant was running until 5 years ago, so roughly before the Arab Spring. The plant has been shut down simply because of their age. And unfortunately, at that place now, a fossil-fueled plant has been built. But there are now also discussions to use again the hydropower in order to build a new green ammonia or green fertilizer plant. So therefore, on the technology side, on the ammonia production, I would say there is nothing new. There we need to work on the price level for the electrolysis, yes, but especially on the ammonia side, everything has been already done. On the other side, and that is on the right-hand side of the slides, the ammonia cracking. So if we transporting over the sea the ammonia, then we need to convert the ammonia back to hydrogen if we are not using it directly as ammonia. And on this side, we need to do also technology-wise our homework. And I have seen in the chat that somebody asked already the question of what is the efficiency? And therefore, I would like to share the efficiency diagram with you. So if we come in with 100% of green electricity, then the first losses are, and that is now different in the different technologies, PEM and alkaline electrolysis, we have roughly 30 to 35% losses during this first step. Then the second step is the ammonia synthesis. There we are losing additionally 14 to 17% during the ammonia synthesis. And then the reconversion of the ammonia to hydrogen, we will lose another 6%. So that means we have in total roughly 50% losses from the green electricity. But rather than in the, let's say, old world of hydrocarbons where we have a limited fuel, here we need to see in first glance, of course, what is the economical efficiency of the whole thing. And therefore, the question is how cheap you can produce the green electricity in different locations in the world. You can produce them everywhere, but for different price tags. And that is the decision-making factor on where you are building such a plant. The ammonia cracking go-to-market strategy or timeline here is we have 2 years ago installed a lab plant. This is in full operation. In this plant, we are testing different catalysts and also materials, and having then a complete material setup for this technology. We have already done the design freeze for the first demo plant because we want to build a demo in between. We are contracting in 2025, are currently in negotiations with one of the major utility companies in Germany, and hopefully soon we can have there the press release who that will be. And with this company, we will build also then the demo plant. It will be in operation 2027, latest 2026 we are targeting. And that means then that the first commercial operation of such a cracker in Germany will be in operation 2030. And that is the timeline we want to go. And then, of course, the producing companies like AM Green needs to be ready to ship then their ammonia to Germany. So if we conclude that, then ammonia is an important element in a future hydrogen economy. The CCS and CCU for the so-called blue ammonia and hydrogen are needed bridge technologies to kickstart the business. We have currently very often a chicken-egg problem, and that can be broken through with this blue technology. Then we need political clarity and international alignment is required in order to harmonize certain standards, but also to establish international businesses. And of course, also technology innovations are still needed to close the value chain and also to bring down the cost then further. And with that, I would like to conclude then. UDE stands for Innovate, Integrate, and an Impact. And if you want to download the slides, what I've presented here, then we have here this QR code. And after you're filling in the name, you can download then also the slides here. Thank you very much. And I hope that was an interesting presentation for you.
Very much. Yes, definitely. Very crucial insights from your side. Many new things for me, and I'm certain for many members of the audience as well. And regarding these slides, we will also put them on our website so that you can download them later on. Yeah, going to the question and answer part of our webinar now. Maybe simply to stay directly with you, there was the question on how to handle the NOx emissions that result from the ammonia combustion.
Do you mean the ammonia combustion in Japan or our own tests? Because one of the technical insights for the cracking is that we are using also ammonia directly to fuel this cracking technology. And there we are doing certain tests. And of course, one major problem there is that you're getting NOx and N2O emissions. But also for that problem, we have a solution, and that solution called NVNOx in our Cosmos. And there we can then abate this emissions to less than 1 ppm in the fuel, in the off gas of that units.
Okay, thank you very much. Then second question going to Prasad. There was the question of what the efficiency of the alkaline electrolyzer is that AM Green is using, and as well what the efficiency of the Haber-Bosch ammonia production process is.
I think the Thor has already answered through a slide. They are also doing something on alkaline as well. So those numbers are in the same range what he has explained.
Oh, great, thank you very much. Then maybe coming to the question, still to you, Prasad, on why did you choose to use alkaline over, for instance, PEM or SOC electrolyzers?
Yeah, so this goes back to our core of our business or business philosophy on which this entire AIM Green plant has been built is our key to use the cheapest storage possible. What we're doing is we are building the India's biggest uh, cloud scale storage. So what we are saying is we are going to have 100 gigawatt hour of storage network, which will be connected to our national grid. So any renewable plant which is connected to national grid can store the power and take the power out seamlessly through the storage network. What that allows us is to achieve the lowest cost of power, which is running almost 85 to 90% of the time blocks. So that helps us in achieving the highest running hours for alkaline electrolyzer. So essentially, you use PEM or any other form of electrolyzer. Okay, I'll come to SOC later, but if you use PEM because you are trying to address the intermittency problem from the renewable energy, what we are doing is we are actually storing the energy in the cheapest possible way and running the alkaline electrolyzer, which is robust, which has run for years, more reliable right now, and that helps us in achieving the lowest cost of hydrogen. So that is why we have chosen alkaline way. Now coming back to the SOEC right now, so-called they claim to be having highest efficiency provided they have some source of heat to maintain the temperatures in the system, right? I mean, if you remove that heat, you have to add heat as an element on the energy side, then you see that their efficiency is more or less equal to alkaline. No doubt that there is a lot of scope for improvement, but they are not there right now. So we as a company don't want to take any risk on the technology as of now. Once the technology is matured, we'll definitely go to SOEC as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Then there is another question to Tore, which is, are there any green ammonia plants which are built by ThyssenKrupp currently in operation? And if not, why not? Since there is experience going back to the 50s.
There is still one plant in operation in Chile that we have also built, but these are the only two, let's say, large-scale commercial plants what are currently in operation. I will not count now plants with an electrolyzer capacity less than 20 megawatt. A big plant is currently under construction in Saudi Arabia that will come online then. And then, of course, everything what is in the pipeline. The biggest driver until now are simply the costs. So the production of hydrogen from fossil fuels, especially from natural gas, is simply currently much cheaper than the production via electrolysis. And therefore, it was not really used and even not a niche market until now.
Thank you very much. Then there is one question going to Daniel, which is, given the substantial funding gap for RFNBO projects, what practical steps can governments and private investors take to provide the necessary financial support? And do you think that there are any successful examples of financial instruments that have been used to promote similar technologies already?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the great question. I think bridging the funding gap is essential, not only in Europe, across the world for these technologies. Government can implement financial instruments like carbon contracts for difference, as I mentioned, which have been successful in the past in the renewable sector, particularly for the offshore wind projects. The CFDs provide price stability, guaranteeing a fixed price for the produced energy or fuel, so covering the difference if market prices fall below a certain level. So the mechanism reduces the revenue uncertainty that exists or still exists and makes projects more attractive to investors and companies. Another practical step, as mentioned, are offering loan guarantees or low interest loans to reduce the financial risk for private investors. Public funding can also co-invest alongside private capital in public-private partnership. I think that's a big leverage which is still to be conquered or to be used in a bigger scale, and in consequence sharing both the risk and the rewards of such projects. On the private sector side, I would say investors can and should, and they already do, form consortia to pool resources and share the risks, which is quite common in new innovative technologies and projects. And green bonds and dedicated investment funds targeting especially sustainable technologies are also gaining some traction, providing new avenues for financing. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. Then there is a question again to Prasad. With 4 cents per kilowatt hour electricity, what do you think is the offtake price range for ammonia? And are the offtake agreements fixed price and for how long? Are you still with us, Prasad?
You're on
Yeah,
mute.
sorry, I was on mute. So, in my presentation, I mentioned that the cost of power is in the range of 4.1 to 4.7, depending on the various sources. So we are assuming on an average cost of, I mean, the PPAs have been signed in that range. So average cost of power is 4.5. Now with that, our hydrogen cost will be anywhere between $3 to $3.5 per kg right now at FOB level. I will not be sharing the actual offtake pricing, but depending on the tenor and depending on the volume what customers are taking, the prices are varying in the range from 750 all the way up to 850. So depending on who is buying how much, that will help us in getting the better price. Yes, most of the contracts, what we are signing are the fixed price contracts. We are not signing any of the open. We are not taking open market risk yet.
Thank you very much. Great. Then maybe one more question. I think it might be addressed to Tore. Would you think that regarding your experiences from project work from a regulatory perspective, what, from your point of view, is specifically not being done in the European Union that is currently a roadblock for widespread ammonia deployment?
Difficult questions. I would say other way around. There are too much done for many regulatory things, and I think the European Union must more rethink whether it is really attracting then investors like AM Green to export also to Europe and not then to Japan and South Korea, because at the end of the day, we need to see that we in Europe are also in a global competition against the two. And there are, of course, long-term incentives, but also how low is the market entry barrier is an important question. And there I have sometimes the feeling, although I'm really a big fan of the EU, that we are a little bit over-regulated there.
Interesting point of view. Because usually I think there is the demand for more being done. So now getting it's too much. It's interesting. Then there is one more question. I'm not sure who it is addressed to, because I think the answer will vary greatly between India and Germany. Maybe either. That the price of green energy is crucial, obviously. The question is, what price do you see as the limit for an economic use in the production of green ammonia?
for the hydrogen? Yeah, I can take that question. So currently the price level is $2 per million BTU hydrogen, $2 per million BTU natural gas for the hydrogen production. And that I need to compare then with the power price at the end of the day. And that means I need to come below this famous $4 or even lower to beat then this $2 per million BTU gas price. And then I become a little bit more competitive. So the ultimate target is always a $2 per kilowatt hour production costs for the renewable energy. Please correct me, Parsat, if I'm wrong.
No, so it looked a different way because as I mentioned, that all depends on how much capacity factor your electrolyzer is running, right? I mean,
Sure.
if you're having a longer, then even if the energy price is little higher, you can actually save the cost on the storage, you can save the cost on any other form of compression or even the transportation. So that is how we are looking at it. So with 4 cent, 4.5 cent numbers, we can go up to $3 even without any subsidies. So that also depends on again, this has to be linked to electrolyzer efficiency as well. Presently, electrolyzer efficiencies, they've never been improvised, to be very honest. I mean, you guys are producing it. There was no market demand to even go down on such a low numbers of efficiency, but now market is driving that efficiency.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of investment in R&D, and I'm sure these numbers of energy efficiencies on alkaline as well as PEM and SOEC will go down as low as maybe 35, 40 types. So that will help in reducing the overall cost consumption, and subsequently it will get translated in low cost of hydrogen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Thank you very much for this. Unfortunately, we are starting to run out of time, so I hope we answered most questions in the way they came up. I would need our presentation for the final steps. Marvelous. Thank you very much. Yeah, as already mentioned, this is only the first of 3 webinars that are coming up in the next 2 weeks. Next one will be next Tuesday, and the last one following this. Next one, please. There are 2 publications that could be of interest on our website in the context of this webinar. One is a lab briefing, a bit shorter, on climate neutral European aviation in 2050. And the other one is a study that the PtX Lab conducted on book and claim for green jet fuel, which is a lot longer and has many deep insights on trading in certificates for climate neutral aviation. Yes, with that, we are at the end. I thank you very much for your attention, and we would appreciate it if you could answer the short survey, which should come up shortly on your screens. Yes, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day, and a great thank you to all to our speakers for taking their time in sharing their insights.
thank you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.